Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second PowerPoint about personal and professional development. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about this thing called work-life balance. What's really interesting to me about work-life balance is it is not a phrase I remember hearing when I was younger, when I was in college and when I was in law school. I don't remember hearing this phrase, and maybe it was around. I have not done research on it personally, but I just remember having my own experience, realizing that I personally did not have a work-life balance in my early years of being a lawyer. And I actually really like that this is an important phrase in our lives now, because although we spend many hours each week at work, it is important to recognize that we all need time for ourselves, whatever that is, being with family members, being with friends, being alone with a good book or Netflix or a walk in the woods, whatever it is that we do with our own time outside of work is crucial. And of course, as we mentioned in the other slide or the other PowerPoint recording, maybe this wasn't a thing when I was younger because we were not tethered to our jobs 24/7, or at least there was not an ability to be tethered to our jobs 24/7. We did not have smartphones. If we had home computers, there really wasn't a way to dial us into the office. And there just wasn't the expectation to be available the way it is now. And so I don't really know which way that cuts, but it is the reality of the way we live now. So I wrote a couple of things here that are just, I think, are worth considering. I think it's important when we apply for jobs to think about the hours that are required by the job. Some employers like to even advertise that they provide a good work-life balance, and you might even ask about that in an interview. I've seen it in job ads before where it says, we provide a good work-life balance. You might ask them, what does that mean? So do they have an expectation that you're not checking email in the evenings or on the weekend, or that you can turn off your cell phone from receiving phone calls during those times? Does it mean that you can leave early to make a child's sporting event or an event at school or to take care of a parent and not be judged for reducing those hours? One of the most important things, of course, is that in the law firm environment, not in-house and not working for the government, we're billing our time. And so if the law firm requires a minimum number of billable hours in a week, usually it's not a week, but over a month or over the course of a year, but the law firm is also touting that, you can leave early to go take care of whatever it is in your personal life, but there's still an expectation that you make that billable time. You need to ask yourself, where are you making that up? Because at the end of the day, the law firm is still a business, still trying to make money. And so where that balance falls when we have to bill our time is something really difficult. It also goes without saying that one of the things we often hear about lawyers and law offices is that they can be very stressful environments. That is true. And I hate to say it, it's not true just because lawyers can have a reputation for being tough. That might be the case. I think it's a bit of a stereotype. I actually think the stress management comes because the law practice in general is a career that is governed by deadlines that are sometimes out of our control. Whatever the field of law is, there might be a court deadline or a patent filing deadline or a date by which a contract needs to be signed or performed. Again, we talked about calendaring, we talked about organization. So whenever you're working around external deadlines like this, that can lead to stress, especially when the deadlines are all being met at the same time. The law practice is also a career where we deal with real people and real problems. Our clients are coming to us because they've had an issue, a legal issue, but it's personal to them. Maybe they've been injured, maybe their business has suffered, maybe they suffered an employment discrimination, or whatever it is something stressful to them, and we're there to help and support them. And so keep in mind finding those ways throughout your workday, even when you're at the office, of finding a way to manage your own stress and manage the stress of those around you. I think that's really important. One of the ways that we might be able to help manage stress is the ability to work from home. Sometimes being separated from the office can be helpful, not to everybody. Some people prefer to be in the office because home can be very stressful. So I'm not trying to say this is one size fits all, but it can help with stress management and it can help with work-life balance. Again, I don't make a judgment on this. I think if I lived in a place where I did not have a quiet space to do work, if I had small children or multiple family members around me, I might find going to the law office to be a more peaceful place and a more efficient place to get my work done, even if I'm not at home. On the other hand, if home can provide you some comfort in that maybe you don't have to get childcare as much, maybe you can take care of other things that you need to do at home and in and around your workday, maybe that provides you the balance. I think it's just an opportunity as you look for a job to really think about the hours that you're expected to be in the office, the hours that you're expected to bill, and then also take a look at your own life and realistically your other obligations and try to find that right balance between meeting your professional obligations and not getting sucked into the point where you feel like you're just working all the time and not able to enjoy that free time outside of the workplace. Okay, my last slide is perhaps one of my most personal stories I'll share with you all semester. And the theme of it has to do with your own career management. I think this falls really importantly under this headline of your personal and professional development. And what I mean here is become an advocate for yourself in your own professional life. I know that coming out of paralegal school, just like when I came out of law school, the dream job that you might have in mind, it exists. Right? And you know what that dream job is. You picture it in your head. You know what it looks like on paper, and we go for it. But for many reasons, that dream job may not be available right when we graduate. Maybe there's not an opening. Maybe it doesn't pay enough. Maybe it's not close enough to our house. There are just a multitude of reasons that dream job doesn't exist. Or it could be that you take a job thinking, this is going to be a good place for me. And then after we get there, we think, ugh, this isn't a good fit for me. I thought this was going to be a good fit. I've been here 6 months. I've been here a year. It's not looking so great. So what I mean by all of this is that's okay. Even when we take a job that is not the perfect job, we are still learning a lot about who we are, where our strengths are, what we like out of a workplace, and also what we don't like out of a workplace. And when it is possible, I'm not going to say if, because I think it's always possible, but the timing may be off. But when it's possible, be an advocate for yourself to perhaps ask for a promotion at the workplace or ask for different types of work if you're not satisfied with the work that you're getting or you think you're capable or at the right stage to receive and do different types of work. Ask for it. Don't wait for someone to say, oh, I think, Bob, the paralegal, is doing, X, Y, and Z. Maybe, he can do something else. That might happen. But very often we have to take those matters into our own hands and ask for that work. And the bigger step is not bigger, but maybe different step is also look for a new job if you're not getting what you want or need out of the position that you are in. I did that. My first job out of law school, I think I was kind of neutral as to whether this was a short term or long term. I wasn't sure. I was actually just so happy to have a job. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that too. It was a job, it was at a law firm, and it was going to pay the bills. And I said, this is great. And it was a larger law firm, about 100 attorneys, and we were working on a very large litigation. And this litigation was going to come with it the opportunity to take many depositions. And I'm giving you a quick version of the story, but this is a true story. And I was working on the case and I was helping to support some senior attorneys to prepare. I was the junior attorney to help them prepare for depositions, gathering exhibits, learning about the witnesses, etc. And after a few months, this is true, I looked around and I was noticing that there were these mid-level attorneys that maybe were out of law school like 4 or 5 years. And they were telling me that they had never, this is true, taken a deposition, that it was only the senior attorneys that did that. Junior attorneys didn't get to do that. And I said, well, that doesn't sound right. When do I get an opportunity to learn how to do that? Maybe not my first day or first week. So I did that. I asked, we have so many depositions here. Can I take one? And I literally was told, you can't take a deposition because you've never done one before. And it was literally like this light bulb in my head went off. And I went, well, then how am I ever going to learn that skill? How am I ever going to grow in this position? And I'm looking at these attorneys that have been out of law school 3-4 years more than me, and they still had not been there long enough, according to the supervising attorneys, the partners, to give them that work. There's another few examples like that at the same law firm, but it was the moment, it took me a while to realize this is not a long-term place for me. I was learning a whole bunch of other stuff. In fact, it's where I learned to become a better writer. It wasn't like the job was all horrible, but it was me saying to myself, I'm junior in my career. There are things I would like to do and tasks I would like to undertake. And if you're not letting me do that just because I've never done it before, rather than teach me and mentor me and help me grow, then what am I doing here? I also have another story about that law firm where I was working there during 9/11, the month of September 2001, and we were in Washington, D.C., and for obvious reasons, our office was shut down for a couple of weeks. Nobody could even come into the city. Again, working remotely was not really a thing. So there were a couple of weeks there where we just weren't working. Well, come October or November, I got this is a true story, a talking to from a senior attorney that although my billable hours were very high in May, June, July, August, in fact, I had been traveling for work much of that time, very high billable hours. My September hours were low. And what was I going to do about that? And I was thinking, but we suffered a national emergency. We were attacked and the city was shut down and the whole country was in a state of shock. And I walked home from work the day the Pentagon was attacked, watching it burn in flames. And you're asking me why my hours were low 1 month when the 6 months before they were so high. Again, it was a combination of all of these things. But I think the moral of the story is I came to realize this was not a place where I wanted to make my career. There were many other things that were good. The colleagues were wonderful. The quality of work was very sophisticated. It was not the right fit for me. It was time for me to update my resume and look for a new job. And so I bring those stories to you as just the real life experiences that even when the job wasn't perfect, that's okay. I couldn't leave right away. It wasn't like, I had bills to pay, I had a life. But when the time was right, I looked for a new job and made the move to a smaller firm right away. It was a better experience. All right. Real quickly, because I only have a minute and a half before I'm going to get cut off again. And I know you guys have heard this from me before, but in terms of that professional development and that ability to grow your own knowledge about your profession, make connections and help you find jobs, I cannot stress enough joining the Massachusetts Paralegal Association and the Paralegal Association of New Hampshire. Wonderful organizations of existing paralegals, many fields. They run events, both virtual now, and they run in-person events when it's not the pandemic. They run continuing legal education programs. That's called CLE, where you can learn about your practice area, learn about a different practice area, develop your skills. You can even check out MCLE, which is Massachusetts Continuing Legal Ed. Those are mostly courses focused for attorneys, but they do have some that are paralegal focused as well. I also wanted to mention there's a couple of national paralegal associations that you can look to into joining also. None of this is required to get a job, but it just helps grow your own self, your own knowledge about your career. I hope those stories have been helpful to you. I look forward to discussing your own on the discussion board. You'll see that I ask you about your own professional stories like that, because I think it's important for us to all learn that life is not a straight line. It's got twists and turns and peaks and valleys, and that's okay because we're all moving in that direction and we will get there. We just have to, take matters into our own hands.